Hello and welcome to the Hat Sports Podcast. I'm Ryan McCracken, the sports reporter here at the Medicine Hat News. I'm here with Sean Rooney, sports editor, and
Howdy.
Charles Lefebvre, general assignment reporter, and spends a lot of time covering sports for us here. How's it going?
I'm doing all right for a Friday. This is actually kind of my Tuesday today, so.
Congrats. Everybody else has different days of the week, and we don't even work normal hours, so there you go.
Yeah, it's an interesting life here at the Medicine Hat News. So, Charles, why don't you tell us a bit about what you do here?
Well, I guess I'm as you said, I'm a general assignment reporter and photographer. I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of city stuff, and I also am kind of sometimes the third man in sports, unofficially, where I will help photograph sports and so occasionally write about different sports whenever Ryan or Sean or our previous sports reporter Darren was unable to cover something.
Yeah, no, it's actually official. You're officially part of the sports department, so that's on air now.
And it's good having you. And on that note, last week we were out at the Methanex Bowl, and you were taking pictures of some preseason high school football while I was doing the writing. And as I was up in the press box, I overheard a conversation on the phone in which somebody said that the Medicine Hat Mohawks bus caught fire, and I relayed this information for you, and you did some digging. What did you find out?
Well, Ryan, that is true. The Hat High Mohawks bus did catch on fire on Friday night before the game, and I talked to Quinn Skeleton, head coach of the Mohawks, before the game. He told me that he went inside to the school. They had the bus pulled out in their little courtyard next to the football field. If they're trying to give sort of a visual to anybody who's listening, they have the football field, and then they have like a little open courtyard, and they have a bus there. And Quinn had gone back into the school, and he saw through the windows that there was smoke coming from the bus. So they called the fire department. They got the bus extinguished, and they had to get another bus to get them down to the game that day. So
Ryan, did they start the game on time that night?
As far as I know, it started within a couple minutes of being on time. What ended up happening was, it was funny, as I was going to interview some McCoy players, they were all loading onto the bus, and I remember I was talking to Charles, and I was like, I got to sprint catch these guys. So I only grabbed one at the time, because I grabbed like the last guy getting on the bus, and then like 5 minutes later, they're all sitting on the grass. So actually what ended up happening is McCoy's bus driver went and picked up the Hat High team and brought them to the Methanex Bowl, and then took McCoy back.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been here 10 years, and I don't think I have ever heard of something like high school football is fantastic here. There's good atmosphere. You know, like the groups of kids, they cheer back and forth. Every once in a while, something gets a little bit out of hand, and yes, there have been cops there before, but this was a new one.
Well, and I wonder whether or not this has to do with football.
It has nothing to do with football, from what I understand.
Oh, Charles, you're such a spoil sport.
That's kind of hope for something exciting. Some new rivalry.
No, there's no rivalry. There wasn't like a crosstown prank by any of the schools. It was nothing like that. I phoned the Medicine Hat Police to follow up on it, and it was two youth under the age of 12 who lit the fire on the bus.
So what happens to them?
They cannot be charged because of their age.
Yeah.
But I think from what I remember,
someone's getting grounded.
From what I was discussing with the police, apparently they're working on like some counseling or something like
remedial something.
Remedial something. I'm not sure how much of this I can.
Well, they haven't said much.
They haven't said much about it because the age.
They can't really release anything. So, well, I guess that's good to hear that it's not like rivalry based and that it's just kids acting out or doing stupid stuff.
As fun as a rivalry would be, that would be a little bit over the top.
That would be.
Yeah, well, a little bit farther than a little bit. But.
And I think most people in town recognize that. Yeah, that's.
There's a fine line between hey, let's kidnap the mascot for
an hour
versus let's cause some petty do some vandalism.
We're not advocating stealing anybody's mascots, though.
When I was in high school, our rival football team was from schools called White Oaks, and as a prank, they dug up and planted a white oak tree at center in our football field.
Whoa!
Yeah,
crazy. You remember any things like that?
To be fair, when I went to high school in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, and we didn't really have much of a rivalry. It was just because the one school, there was two schools there. At the time, there was Portage Collegiate Institute and Arthur High School, which is where I graduated from. Cheap plug. Right. But we had no. We had no rivalry or anything like that. It was just. PCI was often better than our athletic team. So
right, yeah, and I grew up in Calgary. Like I went to school at Bishop Grandin in Calgary, and there's just so many schools in Calgary that you don't really have much of a rivalry with anybody else per se. Like, I guess Lord Beaverbrook was the nearest one, but I had so many friends at that school that we just didn't have that kind of stuff going on.
Well, it's different when everybody knows each other, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, when I was up covering sports in St. Paul, it's like the term rivalry just kind of had a different meaning, you know? It just meant that these two teams play close games all the time, and they're exciting to watch, but, I mean, the kids all go out and probably hang out after the game, right?
And that's what happens here, too, for the most part, right? I mean, yes, you're always going to have people who aren't friends, but there's so many more friends between schools in this city that that kind of stuff. And, you know what, I'm sure stuff like that happens once in a while, but we don't hear much about it, or at least people don't tell us about it. Wink, wink. If you have a story,
those Twitter handles again are.
Those Twitter handles again are at MHN Rooney, at MHN McCracken, and at MHN Lefebvre. Yes, I mean, obviously on the down low, I'd love to hear some of those stories, even if you don't want to say who it was about, right? So
yeah, we don't have to publish them. We just like to hear.
No, yeah, exactly. Anyhow. So this week. We were taping this on Friday.
Yeah. Mohawks back in action in a few hours now. They're going to be taking on the Strathmore Spartans at Methanex Field. It should be a good game. I spoke with Quinn Skelton last night, and he told me, I mean, Strathmore went 0-5 last year. Got stomped around pretty bad on the gridiron, and then the Mohawks 4-0-1.
Yeah. And
lost in the championship game. So I mean, on paper you would think, especially given that I think 3 grade 12s graduated from Hat High last year, it looks pretty lopsided on paper. But Skelton was telling me that the new coach for
is Travis Gorski.
Gorski, a former University of Saskatchewan football player and Hat High alumni, so he knows a bit about him, and he thinks that the Strathmore is going to come with a different game plan and a completely different program this year. So I'm excited to see that.
I'll be honest. I think Quinn's just really being nice, and he knows how to play the game and like the game of words.
Yeah. And
I mean, hey, you know what? I hope it's a close game, but Gorski being a new coach, I mean, Quinn's got 30 years on. No offense, Quinn. He's a fair bit older than
here.
Yeah, talking experience. But I don't know. I would be shocked if that game tonight was close. I mean, I'd love to be proven wrong.
Well, and I'm coming in this I'm flying blind into this game. I've never seen either team play. I mean, I had to leave before the Hat High game really got underway last week, so I didn't get to catch much of it.
Right.
But I mean, and for those of you who don't know, they did lose to the LCI Rams.
Exhibition.
It was an exhibition game,
yeah.
But from what I understand, LCI's got a heck of a program out there.
Yeah.
And Skelton said he was pretty pleased with what he saw, and I mean, there's going to be some kids that need to step up a bit more, I'm sure, but
the loss will definitely help them.
Oh, exactly.
Because if they had beat LCI, this is a game that I think they'd look past.
Well, how many NFL teams have gone undefeated to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah, exactly.
None.
0.
Yeah.
1 got to the final.
Two
got to right. Yeah, that's right.
Dolphins,
Sorry,
I think.
Yeah.
Into the final.
Dolphins.
Well, the Dolphins actually had the undefeated season, right? They're the only ones.
Yeah, but they didn't win the Super Bowl. Or maybe that's right. There was one.
Yeah, you're a sports reporter.
Oh, a hit to the resume.
No, I'm trying to think. Okay.
The Dolphins have a party every year when the last undefeated team
But either way,
bows out,
one team,
so
right? One
all
team.
the alumni do, yeah. But no, that's the thing.
Football's so much about learning from the loss and using that to build what you're going to take forward with you.
Yeah, no, it'll be a long road for whoever gets to the final in high school football this year in Alberta, no doubt about that. So there's obviously lots of high school football. I think just the one high school game this week that we know of, and then next week there'll be, I believe there's a doubleheader next week or the week after. So you can definitely count on us to be covering all that.
The other teams are on the road this week. Crescent Heights is up against Brooks, and I believe McCoy is facing Drumheller.
That's right. Yeah, they're out in Drumheller.
Gotcha. There you go.
Who's a really good.
Yeah, they should be a force to be reckoned with this year.
Yeah, Drumheller's ranked number 1 in Tier 4. Is it 4? I believe they've been ranked number 1 forever.
And provincial champions last year, right?
Yeah, 2 years running, I believe it is. Although again, I could be wrong on that one. So that's the high school scene. By the way, I'm hopefully the league volleyball meeting was apparently last night, and they haven't released their schedule yet. But as soon as they do, we will be on that and covering that stuff too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, and So, I know you want to talk a bit about Rattlers soccer, correct?
Yeah, I mean their season gets started this weekend, right? So I was up at their pitch last night and just talking to some, and getting just destroyed by mosquitoes. Oh my lord!
Man, soccer fields are the worst.
I will agree with you there.
Well, I mean it doesn't help that it practically flooded a couple days ago, and then they're back. They missed a couple days practice because of that. So that was actually one thing that didn't get into my story that I was talking to Coach Jim Laughlin about. That they had some problems this week because of all that rain. But I think all that rain also just mosquitoes everywhere. Just blood loss like you wouldn't believe. It's a gory sport, my friends. But no, they open this weekend at Red Deer and at Lakeland, which is of course in Lloydminster. And it'll be very interesting. It sounds like the women are hosting nationals this year, so that's the big storyline there. But the men actually on paper have the better chances of winning conference this year. They've got a lot of vets, and guys like Mark Scheffelmeyer and Alison Desharnais are they're like third, fourth, fifth year players. So they're really excited about their chances. They think they could legitimately get to nationals this year themselves, which are I believe in Quebec, or we'll figure that out. I'll fill some space. I'll figure that out just this second here. I'll check my web browser, but I'm pretty sure it's in Quebec this year.
Awesome.
So yeah, there's so much stuff that we cover, right? Soccer, volleyball, basketball, golf. The golf season starts up for the Rattlers, not this weekend, but next. And again, they've got a ton of returning guys. Jesse Florkowski,
Incredible golfer.
Incredible. Yes, he's got one arm, but he's better golfer than like anybody else in the city practically.
That's just incredible. Like
you haven't met this guy.
Well, I just heard about this guy today, and
Yeah.
I mean, I have a hard enough time golfing with two hands.
Yeah.
And I mean, I am awful at it. I don't think I have the patience for the sport. I mean, I always
Fair
love
enough.
the first like 9 to 11 holes, and then I just start to hate life. And
Yep.
It's 2.5 hours, right? And but I mean, yeah, just seeing things like that, it's always pretty inspiring. Like the amount of dedication and focus it must take to be good at a sport like golf without having that second stabilizing hand.
But for him, that's all he knows. He's figured it out, and he's got a gorgeous swing. Like he really does.
I want to see this. I'm looking forward to it.
He was a long drive. He'll hit a ball 300 yards.
Jeez.
So he'll be the leader of that team, no question. But they've also got other guys coming back from a couple years ago, like
exactly.
Zach Zubrecki and guys like that. I mean, that team will be very interesting to see if they can crack the top. I think they should be looking to try to win the whole thing. I mean, that's got to be their goal on the men's side. But yeah, they start not this weekend but next, and it's basically a quick season. You got your North Regionals. This year it's your South Regionals first, then your North Regionals weekend after, then ACAC Championships the weekend after that, and then you're done.
Wow.
Well, sorry, unless you make the Nationals, but Nationals are like 3 weeks after the conference championships, so really it's a 3-week season. And if you're lucky, you get an extra week, a month later.
Well, I guess there's not really much of a chance to have it much longer than that.
No, yeah, it's snowing, right?
Not much you can do.
We typically have late season photos from golf of guys wearing toques. So, you really got to love that sport.
Yeah.
So that's what's sort of up with the Rattlers and stuff like that. So again, we'll be all over that, and you can look for lots of coverage of that in the
Well,
News.
it's an exciting time of year for sports. I mean, my favorite month of the year is always October.
Oh yeah.
Well, you got MLB postseason.
Right.
NHL's kicking off. NBA. NFL's getting into full swing.
Yep.
I mean, it is a sports lover's dream month.
Yeah.
I always love it. I mean, aside from your occasional like once every 4 years when you get your Olympics,
Yep.
in February and your World Cup in June. But yeah, I mean, always October is my favorite month of the year, so I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to NHL getting underway, WHL.
Who's all doing like? Does anybody have pools? Anybody in NFL pools? Anybody?
I tried. It's funny. I've been trying to get
Seahawks?
into fantasy football for a while now. I am a big Seahawks fan, and I mean I have been since I was a kid growing up out in BC, Western BC, and so last season was definitely pretty nice to see him get that big Super Bowl win, especially such a lopsided victory over Manning and the Broncos in the Super Bowl. But no, my friends have been trying to get me into fantasy football for a while, and I've been playing fantasy hockey for years now. I just kind of haven't gotten into the football side of things. And I was trying this year, and I had a couple windows, and it just didn't end up working out. So I don't have a football pool this year, but I do have a hockey pool that I've been doing for about 5 years now every year, and then I'm hopefully to start one up for the Medicine Hat News here.
Well, if anybody would be interested in joining said hockey pool, again, tweet at us. We'd be happy to have all comers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, we can do...
And you can prove how much smarter than us you are.
Exactly.
That won't take much.
Hey, to be fair, in my hockey pool, I've made the finals every year. I still haven't paid a cent into the
Trash
pool.
talk.
Yeah.
I've only been in one hockey pool, and that was playoffs about a year ago. And I think I finished 5th or 6th.
I'm terrible at pools. I will do them if somebody invites me and is nice about it and doesn't say that they want my money, but they're getting my money.
Well, it doesn't always have to be worth, I don't really play it for the money. I mean, it's nice that, by the end of the season, you forget you've paid into it.
That's true.
It becomes such a, for those of you who haven't played fantasy sports, whether you're a football fan, I mean, even basketball, fantasy baseball is incredibly difficult just because it is so stats heavy.
Yeah.
And not only that, but there are so many games that it eats your time.
Sure.
But for fantasy hockey, fantasy football, if you're looking for a way to learn more about the sport and from different perspectives, fantasy sports is the way to go. And if you like tuning in to say like a Nashville or St. Louis game, but you don't have much. But you like watching games when you have something riding on it. That's where fantasy hockey comes in, because you can have Bacchus playing and Rinne.
Right.
And so you can be cheering for moments on both sides of the puck, which
even though you don't care who wins per se.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't care who wins this game, but if I would love it if St. Louis scored 7 goals and Bacchus scored 3 and assisted on 4,
right?
Or whatever it may be. So I mean, it gets a lot of fun, and it gets really intense when you get into the playoffs, and on a Sunday night you're talking with the person you're up against, and a shorthanded goal can just flip the tables and create chaos. But I mean, it is a fun way to get to know about the players.
Right.
And the more active you're going to be in it, the more you're going to learn about the sport, and the more fun it's going to be. I mean, I love doing it.
I tend to be a more casual sports watcher than others. I very rarely do pools. I just like watching sports because it's kind of fun to watch. Sure. It's fun to watch just as a fan. I mean, it's without paying attention to statistics or anything like that. Just fun.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and speaking of fun, I've been having a good time watching the Tigers this year.
Nice transition.
Yeah, and I just got back from the arena. I spoke with some of the players in Clouston over there before they're going to head out to High River tomorrow to play Calgary. And so the Tigers 1-1 so far in the preseason. Opened the preseason with a 4-2 loss against Saskatoon last Saturday, but bounced back with the. I didn't see the game, but on paper it looked pretty exciting. I mean, it says
11 goals scored. That's going to be pretty good.
and an overtime winner from Chad Butcher. So
yep.
I'm sure it was a great game. From what I understand, from what I talked to the guys, it was a thriller. And so I mean, they can definitely use that. Especially you got to consider the youth that they brought for these 2 games. I mean, they had a couple guys who were already gone back to their midget teams, and they left pretty much their core behind in Langhammer, Coolis, Ass.
Sure.
Sanford, I'm pretty sure was left behind as well. So.
But you know what? All the teams do that.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I don't really put much stock in the exhibition results, other than to gauge a team's depth.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what they're looking for right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, tomorrow they're going into to play Calgary, which is always a strong team. But there are a lot of question marks surrounding this team right now.
Yeah.
I mean, on the forefront, there's obviously the goaltending situation. You got Langhammer going down to training camp with is it Arizona Coyotes now?
Is that? Yeah, I guess that is what we have to call him now.
So yeah, I guess he's going to be doing training camp with the Arizona Coyotes, and if he gets signed to go to an AHL affiliate, the Tigers could be without him.
Yep.
And
I think that alone would sort of change part of the outlook for their team.
Oh, it would change entirely.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't think that they're banking on him coming back, but I think they're definitely they have to be hoping for it.
Of course. Who wouldn't?
And
his second half of last year's season was incredible, and his playoff run, he can be the difference between a playoff berth or a long playoff run or a short one.
Yep. And that's the funny thing here in Medicine Hat, we're so lucky, right? This team has made the playoffs. Man, I've lost count. It's got to be 12 is it 12 or 13 anyhow. And so we're not, like Charles, as you said, we're talking about how long the playoff run is, not whether there will be one. I mean, God willing that that'll be able to continue, but I think sometimes you have to sit back and just realize how lucky you are to have a team that talking in those kind of terms, right? Like it's a rare thing to have a team that's always in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, especially coming from my perspective, coming from a junior B town where the team made the playoffs because there were 8 teams in the league and 8 teams made the playoffs. made the
two
playoffs.
Greatest words in the English language: default.
Yeah, my favorite was first season I was there. The team actually made. And no offense, I love all the guys on that team. They're all great guys.
They're all listening to this podcast, by the way.
I'm sure they are. But well, they follow me on Twitter, so you never know.
Okay.
But no, the first year they entered the playoffs with a 3-31-1 record.
Wow.
So they hadn't won enough games in the regular season to win a playoff series.
And let me guess, the team they had to play had probably had the opposite record.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. I think they had lost actually they had lost only once or twice in regulation that season.
Oh, man.
But to be fair, St. Paul almost forced a Game 5.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was Game 4 was 2-1, and I mean.
But it was a best of 7 series.
It was
right?
a best of 7 series. Yeah.
Okay, just so we're clear.
No, but that was the funny thing about living here was the perspective was like just all the fans wanted, which granted there were only a few hundred of them, but all they wanted was that one win, just the shove in Cold Lake's face, right? Just get that well you're not going to beat us every time sort of thing, right? And they to be fair, last season they really changed things. They finished around 500. And it was entertaining, but it's nice to be here in Medicine Hat watching a perennially competitive team.
Well, competitive junior B team too, right? Yeah. The Cubs have their camp is ongoing, and they have their black and white game this Sunday.
That Sunday afternoon,
2:30 p.m. at the Kinplex, and Jason Bartram, really good coach. I'm really excited to see what he's got brought in for this team. Charles, it wasn't you, it was Emma who took the vote, I believe, but I saw Cole Schaefer's back. That is a huge sign for them. He's a great goaltender. Had a cup of tea briefly with just WHL call-up situation a couple times.
With Edmonton?
I believe it was Edmonton. He was a fill-in, but still, he's the kind of guy who is a difference maker. Kind of same situation as the Tigers.
Yeah.
If you've got a guy like Cole Schaefer on your team, or Merrick Langhaar if you're a WHL team, that changes your outlook for the season, in my opinion.
Well, and I know Charles and I have discussed the idea of like the overage limit for the Tigers, and if Langhammer does come back, you take him. I'd say that is the one and only no-brainer. Yes.
Right.
I mean, if I had to pick 3 of them, I'd probably go Coolest, Langhammer, and Lewington.
It's a toss-up.
But that's also just from what I've seen. I haven't seen this team play in the regular season.
All those guys, deliver different. It just depends what the Tigers want.
Exactly. And I mean, and back on.
And also what they might be able to get for the guys they might cut. I mean, you never know if other teams are looking for 20s, if you might be able to make a trade or something like that.
That's
I mean,
a good point, yeah.
There's always other irons in the fire. So you never know. You never know what that team is thinking sometimes until they do it. But they always turn out well, right? So.
Yeah, and back on that goaltending situation there. I mean, so in the event that Langhammer doesn't come back. The Tigers made a trade for Jared Rathjen.
Yep. From Vancouver.
At the end of last season, and traded away Robideau just a few weeks ago. But today, when I was at the arena, yesterday when I was at the arena, I was told that Rathjen had been injured, and today I was told that he's not injured, but he's not 100%. It was a pretty
So it's hard to say it's hard to say where that situation is at.
Yeah, but it does kind of raise some question marks as to what is going to happen moving forward. I know for tomorrow's game, Langhammer's going to start, and Schneider will be backing up.
There you go.
But I didn't actually get a chance to speak with Rathjen himself about it. He was in a coaches meeting when I was there. But I mean, I'm curious to learn more about that situation.
Hopefully he's all right.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, exactly. And I mean, hopefully it's just. Maybe he's just under the weather or something like that.
Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Super. So that's for Tigers. Let's move on to some other stuff then. Ryan, what do we got next?
And you can probably fill me in about this. You want to talk a bit about Strive magazine?
Yeah, I just wanted. I mean, you know what? There's other publications. There's other stuff going on in the city that. That features our local athletes, and Strive is run by the Alberta Sport Development Centre Southeast, which is basically based out of Medicine Hat College. Katrina and the group there, they do a fantastic job, and they also there's a regular routine columnist that we have from the SDC that writes every 2 weeks in the paper, writing on things like Ged Stiles writes about physical training and stuff like that, and and Courtney and them, they write about nutrition, things like that. So there's a lot of ways the ASTC can help folks, and one of the things they do is they sort of let people know what athletes in this area are doing. A lot of these, of course, we do stories on as well, but they sort of take a different sort of angle to it. It's a really nice publication. If you go to striveonline.ca, you can download any of their archives or even their current one, and it's really cool. I'm just looking at the this issue right here, as long as I can keep it up, and they've got stories. Arsha Jessica Herman, Cyril Iwanigbe, who's from Brooks, who now is with the UFC Dinos, Chelsea Kingston, BMXer. Mark McNulty, I believe he's still with Prince George Cougars WHL team. There's tons, like there's 30 pages this time. They do, I believe, quarterly. I believe it was what it is, or twice a year. Twice a year, I think it is what it is. And there's lots of interesting stuff in there. Column from Greg Morrison. This time out, Courtney Marchez, and of course, there's tons of stuff in there. So if you get a chance, you might see it around town. Iwanigbe is on the front cover this time out, and definitely worth a read.
Yeah, pick it up,
checking that out. Yeah, and we liked. I mean, obviously they help us. They write some columns. It's only fair we try to send it back to them because they do some good work there.
Definitely.
Yeah. And the other thing, sort of along those lines, as far as what's going on locally, Charles, I think you have actually been doing some reporting on this with MedHat Active. Are you in touch with them?
I'll be going out there this weekend to look at the groups. But I've written on the giant registrations before, and I talked about them in March this year. And there's literally something for everybody there at MedHat Active. And It's not just sports. I mean, there's sports. There's hockey. There's ringette. There's martial arts. There's a lot of things, but there's also clubs like the cadets, service clubs in the past. In Friday's paper, there's a whole list of all the clubs that are there, and it's like
Perfect.
Really, it's for everybody who's looking for something to do.
Sure.
Anybody who's looking for something to do, and it's really just a way to help get the community active and get everybody, all the groups, under one roof.
And so, just a bit of background on this. I don't know how well you know this part of it, but the Medicine Hat Mall used to do a mall-wide registration where many of these groups would go, but since the mall changed ownership, they basically said, no, you know what, we're not going to do this anymore. I don't know their reasons. Kind of irrelevant now because it's just not happening there anymore.
Yeah.
So
there
were some people upset about it, but you know what? MedHat Active has stepped in to basically fill that void. Now they're doing it at the Cypress Center. It's what are the dates? Saturday.
It's, Saturday.
Saturday, pretty much all day there. So if you drop by, you can
I think most of the
do
morning.
pretty much any of your registration you can do there. It's a one-stop shop for doing anything in the fall or winter. It seems to me.
I'll probably be stopping by myself.
Yeah.
Another thing that's going on at the mall this weekend in the parking lot is the Gear Up by the Lions Club.
Oh yeah.
Where people have donated hockey equipment, ringette equipment, and indoor soccer equipment. That's from in the morning. I think 10 to 4.
10 to 4, I think is what I heard.
10 to 4 in the mall parking lot.
Sure.
And it's a good way to get free equipment, and it's all checked out on site to see so that it's safe. And it's a good way to get some equipment for some people so they can actually play sports this fall.
Yeah, that's fantastic stuff. So
program.
definitely check all those things out if you have a chance this weekend, and especially if you got kids.
And if you know of anything else going on in the coming weeks, you let us know, and we will be sure to give it a mention here on the Hat Sports Podcast.
So I think we mentioned our Twitter accounts, right? At MHN Rooney, at MHN McCracken, and at MHN Lefebvre. Also, if you're not on Twitter, email us, sports@medicinehatnews.com.
You can get all three of us there.
Yeah, that we all receive the same address, so that's an easy way to get a hold of us. And you can also just call the sports line, 403-528-5688. We'd love to hear from you. We'd also love to hear comments, anything you'd like to hear in the podcast, anything like that. That's all up for, we're figuring this stuff out as we go, folks, so we'd love to hear back from you.
Yeah, like we said last week in our first podcast, it is a work in progress, and we're trying to get better every week, and I think we're working towards accomplishing that. And we have some big news here at the Hat Sports Podcast that Tigers general manager and head coach Sean Clouston will be joining us for next week's podcast.
Boom, boom. Yes. Yeah, he'll and so we're gonna hopefully get some guests on regularly. Charles, you are technically our first guest. We should actually acknowledge that. Yes, you work.
Put that on your resume.
Everybody wants that on their resume for sure. Sitting here, and it's great to have you, and it'll be great to have Sean on, and we're going to try to get a range of guests for you folks on the podcast regularly so we can talk about some different stuff. But you know what? As you heard today, we're just going to sort of shoot the breeze and and talk about a variety of things, sort of whatever comes up. So it'll be interesting to sort of talk with people like Clouston or like other folks who we're trying to get lined up. Just sort of see them in a different light, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, who knows? We might end up not even talking too much hockey with Sean. I mean, the goal is to talk Tigers, but we might get into something else. We might just want to learn more about who is Sean Clouston. So.
Yeah. I mean, I was talking to him yesterday about some old members of the arena. I'll just mention this briefly because it'll be in a story later, but he played with the Portland Winterhawks that lost the Medicine Hat Tigers in the Memorial Cup final in '87.
Wow.
So he has some interesting stories about this building.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And the arena, of course, going into this last year before the event center, the regional event center opens next fall. But yeah, I mean that'll be.
Which is already looking impressive, by the way. The event center, just from the outside.
Were you one of the guys who actually got to go on the tour? Or?
No, I have not. I did not go on the tour.
But it does look impressive outside.
I've driven past it a few times because I've been sort of in the area near I live, but I've seen it a few times.
Charles lives on the train tracks.
Why don't
Charles doesn't know how to respond to that. Sorry, Charles. Keep going on.
But anyway, I've driven past it a few times. I've watched the construction. I've seen it there, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting building. And just seeing the photos that our supremely talented photographer Emma Bennett has taken, and I'm kind of excited. I'm really excited to see when this building's finally open.
Cool. Right on. Well, that almost brings us to the end. There's just one more thing I wanted to talk about, which was just sort of a general thing about this is the time of year, as we said, MedHat Active, all that kind of stuff, a whole bunch of new signups.
A lot of sports.
If you are a sports organization or somebody who's doing something really cool in local sports, we want to hear from you. As we said, sports@medicinehatnews.com are our Twitter addresses. I'm not going to say those again. But the main thing is a lot of people don't know how to get coverage in the paper, or sometimes they get frustrated that their sport or something that they're interested in isn't getting coverage. The biggest thing is just communicate with us, right?
We can only cover what we know is going on, and we try to cover everything that we know is going on.
With the staff that we've got.
Yeah. Exactly, within reason. I mean, I can only physically be in one place at one time.
Yeah, we're still working on cloning Charles, but...
Yeah.
Because he would be a good guy to have cloned. We can get as much of Charles as possible.
And I mean, we're still looking to better this podcast. So if you are a musician or you know of any musicians who want to help make an intro song for this podcast, you let us know, and we'll be sure to give a plug for your band or whatever it may be, and get some exposure for you and help snazz up the podcast a bit.
You betcha. That'd be great. Cool. Well, thanks, Charles.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah.
Again, it's just you have to walk over my desk to invite me over. So.
Right. So.
But that still takes effort.
Yeah. Don't make it too easy on us.
Don't downplay it.
Yeah.
But I'm always open if you guys ever want me to come back. So.
We'd love to have you. I'm sure we will.
All right. So next week we got Sean Clouston coming in. We hope you all tune in and share the word. Medicine Hat Sports Podcast.
And
Thanks,
we can
folks.
also check it out on the Medicine Hat News website and Medicine Hat News YouTube page.
Super.
That's awesome.
Right on, guys. Signing out.
Have a good week.